Okay, James, this video is for you. I know you say I don't work. Let's see. Do we look like? I don't have a conventional job, and I don't make money, but I do work. And if you want to disrespect me because you feel disrespectful of yourself, it's something I have to point out to you, that it's not okay to treat me like that. You can treat yourself as bad as you want. You can do heroin and cocaine and alcohol and smoke 80 cigarettes a day and die early. You'll be dead by the time you're 40. And I'll be sad, but my life will go on because I've made better choices than that. I don't smoke that many cigarettes. And believe it or not, in art school, when you go, if you get to go, some of the lucky people do, this creation here is called work. That's what we do for work in art school. I don't know what they do for work in accounting school, but I'm pretty sure I don't want to know. I'll hire an accountant, somebody I can pay. Callista's doing work. She did this work. I think you can tell the difference between a professional artist and a child. I love children's work, but I think if you think about it. But when you're going to say that I don't work, I might have to say, I'm sorry your father has not been a good father. You want to cut down on me, but I never did anything to hurt you. I hit you with a spoon that one time, but you cannot imagine the amount of stress I was going through at that time. I mean, your dad and I made a deal. It was a deal. You're 28, 29, you're hot babe, I want to look good, I want to look like keep my job, because see, if you're married to a young woman, you look fertile, you look younger. But it didn't work for Gore-Tex because they fired him because they found fraud. They reviewed him and they found fraud, that he was stealing gasoline and food and stuff like that for people. So I didn't know the details at first. I just knew he got fired. And, I think you could start out in his childhood and say his dad was an alcoholic and his mother's father was an alcoholic. And he grew up in an entirely different time. I mean, he was in the 50s, 60s, just on the cusp of the 60s. And he's kind of like comfort food. He'll tell you what you want to hear. He will. If he's a salesman and he knows how to sell something, he knows how to get in your mind and tell you, even if it's wrong, oh yeah, have some cigarettes. A few won't hurt you, or let you drink whiskey when you're just a teenager. I'm not saying he's all bad. He's got a good heart, but he's because of the alcoholism, he's a pretty misguided man on how to raise teenagers. You don't let them have crazy wild parties in your house where you're supplying the booze and the cocaine. Where's all that money coming from? And then I come over to your house and you're screaming mad, punching holes in walls, and and that's the way to handle it? I mean, I learned so much. See, one of the really good things as an artist is that I learned a lot from your dad. It wasn't pleasant. But I learned a lot from Alan. It wasn't pleasant. Kent was pleasant. It was heartbreaking to lose him. I cried. He was a real gentleman and studied and smart and said the right things and the truth. He didn't lie. He never lied to me. And I trusted him. I knew your dad was cheating when he went out on the road if he could. He's a liar. And I didn't really care, but what I did care about was the time he took out a $30,000 loan when we had just taken money out of his retirement he didn't even have money for a house, and he's almost 50 years old. He told me he had this house in Delaware, so he goes, that's my house in Delaware, implicating that it was paid for. But when the reality came, he's not secure. It was a scramble we lived in apartments, and then we rented a house, and then we took some out of his, he needs his retirement. He can't have any life without retirement. I mean, they had a special account, like $100,000 in his retirement. Gail took half of it. His first wife, who left him for alcoholism. Oh, I'm so sorry. You've been so brainwashed. He's kind of like the Pied Piper. I mean, I bought it. I thought it was going to be a fun, happy life. I totally fell for his schmeal. Oh, Elizabeth, I'm going to buy you a horse. Well, for God's sake, I'll marry you if you'll buy me a horse. That's what he promised. And I was a kid. I mean, I was like, this sounds good. We'll have horses. We'll have a baby. And we'll have a farmhouse. But I didn't know he drank so much. But that happened while you were a baby. And I was just pregnant with Morgan. And he brought home a 12-pack and drank 8 of them on a Wednesday night. I'd never seen it in my dad ever. I just assumed everyone was like my dad. And I honestly never dated an alcoholic. I mean, I dated around and stuff like that. Tim might be an alcoholic, but he's got anxiety and panic. So I think your dad might have depression or something he needs to see a psychiatrist about. But I can't. He's a big boy. He's got to take care of himself. And I think the thing that makes me the most angry is how people keep saying I'm abusive. And, you know, you can really push my buttons when I know for a fact I wasn't abusive. I did spank you, but your dad never did. Trying to think of a time your dad ever could say no. And I think you can talk to my dad, you could talk to Nana, you can talk to Jennifer, Chip, whoever knew him, and they will say your dad does not know how to draw boundaries. I think when you were at his house, you threatened him, you beat him up, whatever it took, and you had no morals, and your ethics were out the window, and you wanted a role model, but your dad couldn't be it, and you'd beat the shit out of him, and he'd get you whiskey or cigarettes. He'd probably be low on money, but then he'd take credit out, because James is going to beat the you're going to intimidate and break him. And he was scared. I think he was scared, and I think he's too weak of a person to call the police and say this assault is not okay. I did. When you assaulted him that one time, I did. You want to be rebellious and all that good kind of stuff for an artist? You need to learn the perimeters of what rules you're breaking. That's the big thing about being an artist is you cannot break the rules until you know what they are. All these paintings around me break the rules, but I went to art school. I know what rule I'm breaking. You know, and I know what rules not to break. It's like an E. Cummings poem. If he broke every rule, we wouldn't understand them. But because he goes by some that he chooses, we can enjoy his poetry. You know, you're smart. I've seen you see Shakespeare and you're okay. I'm sorry you don't read books because that can be a pleasant activity where you can learn a lot. I'm not really worried about it. If you don't end up in an intellectual artsy circle and you end up chicken parts for $20 an hour or working at the post office, I hope you're happy. But if you want to be part of the artsy intellectual circles that musicians always are, the really good ones, they do read. They read. And you might concede on video. I don't know if you're dyslexic or but if you go to school, you're going to have to read. Reading is one of the most integral, important things we do to increase our brain power, to make good decisions. Creative, good decisions and innovations. Like you want to be in a band, well, you've got to innovate. You've got to come up with something new that people want to pay to see. How are you going to do that without creative thinking? And that was my thought of you going to art school, is they encourage and they make you do projects to learn creative thinking skills. And wherever you apply that in your life, it's definitely worth it. Or else you just might as well join the military and just march like everybody else. If you want to be an artist, go to art school. You can go to music school, but it's more perimeter of symphony. But the art school, you can bring your violin in and do a performance piece with music. You have performance art class, and you can do music and whatever. I mean, it's open. It's open to interpretation. There are parameters. They want you to draw figures. You have to draw figures and stuff like that. And you don't have to be the best at it, but maybe you are, you know. But you have to go through the classes, and it's tough. I think we had to be there at 8 a.m., and it went till 4. I mean, it was like the military. And there's a couple kids that killed themselves when they didn't get in the CA department. Not the year I went, but a few years before that. And I think they solved that problem. But it's really cutthroat because people feel like if they're not the best, they can't make a living as an artist. And that's true. You have to be the best at what you do. But you have to figure out what it is you want to do. Do you want to beat your mom up too? You want to beat your dad up? What is making you so angry? What did I do to make you angry? I just gave you a ride. Am I a disappointment? You have no proof that I ever disciplined you in any sort of way that was abuse, except for that time with the wooden spoon. And I will happily attend parenting classes, in which I have learned a lot since then. And it's kind of like you want to hold it over my head for the rest of my life. And I can't make any good decisions until I give you retribution in court, which I'm sure you'll take me to court. And you'll be like, Mom, you owe me $1 million because you gave me a little bruise. That's the way it works in celebrity families. And I don't care. I'll give you $1 million, you go waste it on drugs. Have fun. Because you don't know anything. You didn't even graduate from high school. You know, you're doing a little bit on the guitar, but you need to put so much more effort into your music. I mean, you're not getting out meeting people, you're not saving money to buy instruments. I mean, your heart's not in it. You just maybe want to be the sex god so you can sleep with fucking different women and not treat them nice like you didn't treat me nice. Like Kent was very much a gentleman. But it made me mad. I said, I deserve better than that for this son. That I went and mucked for 6 months or 8 months. I went every morning on the weekend at 6 a.m. to get you Thomas. Your dad did not pay a penny for that miniature horse. I went and I would muck stalls, and I enjoyed it. It was early in the morning, but your dad on the weekends would watch you because he traveled a lot during the week. So all this abuse he's saying, he wasn't even there when you were little. He had he had 2 different jobs. One, he had to go in the office all day, and he was making $90,000. Hated it. Then another one, he had to travel a lot. You kids don't remember. Go look at the photo book. See how abusive I was. And you're going to take your dad's word, an alcoholic, because it's easier to decide that this is why your life is not going so well, because your mom's bipolar, because of the mental illness. It's a really good scapegoat, and I've heard it used many times for other people's. Jennifer has problems. She uses my bipolar. Of course, it's my fault. What have I done? Oh, I hit Hillary on the head. Well, I was frustrated at the schools. I mean, she had to fucking do this homework. I'm like, there's no need for this. God damn it. We don't want to do this homework. It sucks. But I didn't know anything about homeschooling, and I should have done that for you and Hillary. But it really wasn't popular yet. I mean, it's just very few people, and there wasn't a big network of homeschoolers. But it was just, I don't think I was so mad at her. I was frustrated at the homework because the homework was stupid and I didn't know the answers and she didn't know the answers and it didn't make any sense. It's just the hoops you have to fly through to get that stupid fucking public school graduation thing, whatever it is. I mean, you don't learn anything. I mean, go to fucking college. I mean, and if you're studying something you love, say it's bird wing tips. Well, you're going to get some good information on that. Because people that love their job in teaching, teach in universities. People that are not good teachers, most of them, I would not say about Miss Sheffer, she was a careful, wonderful woman. They're not good quality because nobody will work for $38,000 a year? I mean, not when they can be making $250 a year in pharmaceutical sales. I mean, if they're smart, there's just no way you can get quality teachers. Except for, I mean, Miss Sheffer loved it. She probably had a husband that helped support. She couldn't support herself and the kids on her money. I couldn't go into it. I mean, not with the knowledge. And say you've got a college degree and you owe $60,000. Well, you got to pay that back. Now, you're fortunate enough maybe that if you're a good kid and you do the right things, you might get away with getting a degree or classes without having to pay for them. Because you have a family on my side. Your dad's side doesn't value education. They set nothing aside for you or Morgan or Hillary. No one cared. They don't know. They're not. Your dad's not educated. I know he took different classes. He took maybe a business class, an English class, but I did a lot more in university. Plus, then I did a lot of study outside of university, and he was not educated. I mean, he was educated on being a salesman, and he educated himself on Gore-Tex fabrics, but in general, the only education your dad had was life experience, because he didn't read books. So he would talk about the Vietnam War, but he never went. He had family get him out of it. I don't like him being like, I've had people go, maybe he's got PTSD. I said he never left the States. He taught people to drive tanks. He does not have PTSD. So, I mean, he never really played that up when I was marrying him. But then all of a sudden, as he got more and more unself-sufficient, it became more important to him to look like the victim of Vietnam War. He went to college simply to play football, which I think is a dumb sport. And he got his back hurt. And then he dropped out. And he might have gone 2 years to community college, but he didn't get accepted to a 4-year college like I did. And I'm not saying he's dumb. He's an alcoholic. And I'm pretty sure the alcoholism started in college. But like I said, his mom's father is a violent alcoholic. And they put him in the VA hospital where he stopped drinking, and they'd go visit him. But he had to leave the house because he pushed the mom down the stairs. He has alcoholism very strongly in his family, and I didn't see signs of it. I saw a few glasses of wine on the weekend and stuff like that, but it took me a good year before I realized he's a functional alcoholic, and then he became dysfunctional. He lost his job, and he became an Uber driver, but he had lost his mind already from, Morgan said, he would tell me, I only drink a beer, and then I put vodka in it. I would have left him, right away. I was already trapped with a baby, but I wouldn't have put up with that. So it's kind of bad that you saw me put up with that behavior. But I felt trapped because I was pregnant with Morgan and you were like a year old. And so when I got pregnant with Morgan, I said, well, for security reasons, we need to buy a house because we were renting. And I said, we need some security in which to pay for the kids' college if we sell the house or something like that. And so your dad took some money out of retirement. We didn't have sex very often, and certainly not after he lied to me in Winchester. So Shenandoah, we had separate bedrooms. I don't know if you remember that or not, but he was pretty passive-aggressive and angry about it. But sometimes you just can't submit to your husband despite what the Bible says if he's going to lie to you and drink. And then in the future, and I don't know if you'll ever see this, what I hope for you is that you can find out what a gentleman is like, a nice gentleman, like Paul de Pascali. Super nice gentleman. And pick those people for role models. And know your dad loved you, but know your dad was sick. And I was sick, but I did pretty well. I saw my doctor and my therapist, and I had to come off my medicine a couple times for pregnancies and things like that. But I was doing my best. But it's just real easy for your dad to say I was abusive. And he tells different stories to different people. But if you go look through all those catalogs that I filled out for you, there's no abuse. There's just love. Just love for my children. And I can't say I never spanked you or anything like that. But it wasn't as often as you say. And it's just real easy to blame me for your problems. And that's what you're doing. And you don't feel secure enough in blaming your dad for setting you up for being an alcoholic, which he did. Giving you alcohol at age 14, 13. You took it to school. And I couldn't do anything about it. I didn't have money for a lawyer. I would have gotten you out of that situation, put you in a house, in a school, and had your dad have weekend visitations every other weekend. My dad wouldn't help. You know how he is? Just patronizing. He's stuck with Jerry. It makes me really sad that you had to grow up that way. Because you had a pretty good life on the farm. You had Bert, you had your swim team, we had little Thomas. Remember, I got the child from New York City a couple times to give a little bit of charity. That wasn't your dad's idea. That was my idea. We took him to King's Dominion or Busch Gardens or something. But it's just, we bought a camper when we tried to get back, and he said he quit drinking. And we went to Walt Disney when you were little. See, you were so little, you don't even remember all this. And then it just didn't work out because your dad started sneaking and drinking. And now what's the big, it is a big deal. It's a big deal for you. Every drink you have is a big deal. Just a little, even just a little taste of alcohol is a big deal. It means you're putting alcohol in your body. And are you careful and righteous, and do you know how to handle that type of drug? It's a drug. If you're getting drunk and falling down and getting arrested by police, it's saying you do not know how to handle it. Maybe your body processes it differently, because I don't drink that much. I'll have a shot. Then I'm good. I don't have any more. But for you and your dad, you can't stop at one shot. Just a little warm feeling down your arms or something. That's good enough. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't even want another sip of alcohol. This is a very strong taste. It was the other day when I had a little sip of your whiskey. You had drank the whole bottle. But I was like, whoa, just a little sip of whiskey does me. But I've been a great mother to you. Always there as much as I could be when you needed me, whether it was at the house in Chesterfield where I got you food, or the other house where you had snakes and Morgan wanted her room painted purple. And you called me because your dad was drunk driving and y'all were in a fight. It's a contest between. You're not a man. Your dad's not a man either. I don't know what he is, but a man can say no, and a man can do the right thing. And your dad knows neither how to say no or how to do the right thing. I think it's the addiction that he's had for so long that's enabled him to be so fraudulent and unethical, and to make babies he can't take care of. He promised me he'd take care of y'all, send you to college. He was going to keep working until he was 70. But guess what? He chose alcohol. He promised me that in the beginning, and then I took him to counseling, and he promised me he'd stop drinking, and this would happen. But then drinking, he just kept drinking, and he was not nice. He would say mean things. He would kiss me on the ear really hard to hurt me, because my ears are very sensitive. And I don't want you to hate him. I don't want you to hate Alan. I talked to Alan, and I'm not going to get involved with him. I really don't like talking to your dad because I do have some pent-up feelings of the abuse that he gave you, actually. It's abusive to give a teenager alcohol and cigarettes and any kind of drug. It's illegal. And if an adult is doing that, it is contributing to the delinquency of a minor. He should go to jail for that. I didn't have a lawyer. We had to have proof. My proof was when I came to your house and I saw the paraphernalia. I saw the bongs. I saw the whiskey bottles. I saw the cigarettes. I didn't see the cocaine, but Morgan told me it was there. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen. I mean, we used to go out and party some when I was in high school, but I just can't imagine like my dad giving me a bottle of whiskey or giving me money and being drunk. I can't even imagine my dad drunk. I've never seen him. He's always been in control. See, your dad has no control. And when he's drinking, he has no control of his decision making, of his leniency, of setting boundaries or good choices for his children. He's out for the count. Yep, he passes out. And then you guys get to do whatever the fuck you want and your little kids. You're like teenagers that get in a lot of trouble. And so you still got to get out of it. But you're going to have to bring I've done all I can. I paid your rent a couple months. I gave you a couple cool paintings to hang. I bought you some clothes. I've offered you to talk to Jennifer about schooling if you want to do that. But you're going to have to figure your life out. And I think you should take some deep thoughts about how you want to live your life. Because if you continue down the same path that you had at your dad's, you will die at 27, just like Jim Morrison. You will. And it makes me sad, but also I know I'm released from it. I've told you. It's up to you now. And if you die, I'm just going to be the mourner. I'll be there very sad. But Sally Mann lost her son. An artist lost her son. So maybe it'll help my art if you die of suicide. If I can save you, I would, because I love you. You're my son. But It's just the path has been so well set for so long for you. I mean, the abuse of the nacho cheese where you got fat. And I was like, Jerry, don't let him eat that at the computer. Your dad can't say no. And maybe that's because he's drunk a lot. And there is no ability to say no when you're drinking. So there's just no point in it to him. He might as well say yes to everything. Lets him off the hook. Especially if you don't like confrontation like he doesn't. He doesn't like confrontation. So you would get more and more threatening to him because you felt like it affected him. Like if you get threatening, you're going to get in a fight. And then you guys just like to fight. But it's very unhealthy. You should respect your dad. I have no respect for him except for what he did right. But in the all and day out, I wouldn't want to be with him. I don't want to be with a person like him that makes his choices. And even when he's been given a second choice by 2 women, Gail gave him a choice, I gave him a choice, he still picked alcohol. Do you understand how dangerous? Do you understand you could end up on the street and nobody will help you? We don't live in a society. What would I do? What would I do if I saw you on the street just begging for alcohol? You give up, like your dad would always say. And I'm like, my dad says never, never, never give up. I had a better dad than you, even though he's got some issues. Better dad. I can't say Nana's a better mom than me, but she certainly knows how to cross-stitch and bake pies. I'm glad you had her for a grandma. You know, you can look to John for a role model, but I would look elsewhere for role models than your father. You can love him all you want, but don't try to emulate him. I love you.